Do 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 do. Do 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 do, but let's do the Odyssey. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we are reading pages 21 to 40, The Cliffs, Another Freddy's number 7. Usually there I would tell you the chapter, but of course we don't actually have the chapters with us because this book doesn't have any chapters. What I can tell you though, by going to my list of books, is that we have this episode, and if my calculations are correct, I apologize. They always are. Although sometimes I have messed them up. I'm not going to deny that. We have this episode, and then next episode, and then after next episode, we are done with The Cliffs, and then we're going to the next story titled The Breaking Wheel. But before that, we have to read this episode. So without further ado, let's begin. Getting the bear and the wristwatch set up when working was mildly annoying, but could have been worse. After about 15 minutes of fussing with directions and batteries, Robert had everything in working order. He handed the bear over to Tyler and said, "Why don't you play with Freddy while I get your supper started?" "Freddy," Tyler said, giving the bear a hug. In the kitchen, Robert put a pot of water to boil and dumped the contents of the jar of spaghetti sauce into a pan. He was letting the lettuce, carrots, and cucumbers out of the fridge and started the salad when his tag-along Freddy time wristwatch vibrated. The screen said, "A message from Freddy." Robert tapped the screen with text appeared. "It's all good. I'm playing with my best buddy." "Cute." Robert couldn't help but smile. Robert sliced carrots and cucumbers for a salad, but then pasta to a boil. When he went to the living room to tell Tyler it's time to eat, the little boy was holding Freddy up to his lap and reading to him from one of the little board books. "My first book of colors." Every time Tyler did something this adorable, Robert wished Anna was here to see it. But who was he kidding? He always wished Anna was there. I Freddy's daddy," Tyler said. "You are, huh? That's pretty cool," Robert said. "Are you and Freddy ready for supper?" Robert expected at least a small argument, but since Tyler was in the middle of reading, but he said, "Okay, Daddy," tucked in his bear under his arm, and followed Robert to the kitchen. When he helped Tyler in his place at the table, Tyler set Freddy down into the chair next to him and said, "Freddy, plate." "You want Freddy to have a plate too?" Robert asked. "Uh-huh," Tyler said, nodding in a very serious manner. Feeling more like than a little silly, Robert set a plate in a cup of spot on the table in front of the toy bear. He set down a plate of spaghetti and a bowl of salad in front of Tyler, along with a sippy cup of milk. "Now Freddy has to eat pretend food, or he'll get all messy," Robert said. "He'll eat pretend spaghetti," and then, because he knew rhymes cracked Tyler up, he said, "Freddy spaghetti." Tyler giggled, but his dad had made the funniest joke in the world. "Freddy sketty," he yelled, then laughed some more, laughing the table in hilarity. "He's ready for Freddy spaghetti," Robert said. He was milking the joke, but that's what you did when you had a 2-year-old audience. There was not much occasion for subtle wit. Robert and Tyler ate spaghetti and salad and laughed a lot. Even Robert had to admit it was a fun time. The downside of feeding Tyler spaghetti was that it made a mass necessary pronto. Tyler's face was so smeared with orange goo when he smiled, he looked like a jack-o'-lantern. Somehow he even managed to get noodles in his hair. "Okay, buddy," Robert said, stealing aside with a preparation for a tantrum. "We're gonna have to straighten the bathtub after this." "Freddy bath too?" Tyler asked. "Freddy can't get wet, but he can come along," Robert said. "Okay, Daddy," Tyler said, picking up his bear and walking toward the bathroom. Telling Tyler to a bath usually involved such elaborate negotiations. Robert felt like he could involve the United Nations. He could believe tonight's routine was going so easy. It was funny, though. As much as Tyler usually argued about bath time, he was in the water, he loved it. Robert threw Tyler's collection of rubber duckies and toy boats in the water. The boy was happy to splash and play. Robert set Freddy down on Tyler's toddler step stool in a safe distance from the splash zone, but Tyler could still see him. Tyler held up each of his bathtub toys to show Freddy. "Freddy, this is my blue boat. Freddy, this is my yellow ducky." 2-year-olds love to show off and brag about their material possessions. Robert had noticed. When Tyler talked to his grandma on the phone, most of what he had was a list of toys he owned. It was like he was some kind of business tycoon bragging about how many cars and houses he owned. After Tyler was clean in his choo-choo trained pajamas, Robert tucked him into bed with his tackle Freddy. "You want me to read a book to you, buddy?" Robert asked. "2 books," Tyler said. Robert pretended to be aghast at such an outrageous request. "2 books? Because I'm 2, Tyler said. He explained everything. "Well, I guess I can't argue with that." Robert scooted his chair next to Tyler's bed and looked over Tyler's bookshelf. "The Silly Chicken," Tyler said. Robert pulled out a book of The Silly Chicken. "Do the voices," Tyler said. Robert read the book of The Silly Chicken, complete with silly chicken voices. Tyler giggled because the book was funny, but also, Robert suspected, because it was hilarious to hear your parent making a fool of himself. "Now the piggy one," Tyler said. Robert obeyed. By the end of the piggy stories, Tyler's eyes were droopy. And seconds after, Robert closed the book. Tyler wrapped his arm around Tackle on Freddy and went right to sleep. Robert couldn't believe how much easier regular tasks and parenting had become with Tackle on Freddy. He couldn't believe that he almost didn't buy the bear because it seemed too expensive. Yeah, it would have been worth it twice the price. Robert got soda in the snack fridge and settled in to watch a dumb but fun action movie he'd missed because he never got to the theater anymore. He knew he'd rehire a sitter, but he already felt bad leaving Tyler in daycare all day. He wanted to spend all the time he could with him. The little boy had already been deprived of a mom. As a dad, Robert wasn't really feel adequate or enough. At least he could do was try to be present as all he could. Just like in school, if you weren't great at it, you would generally get by if you put some effort and showed up. It wasn't great parenting philosophy, but it was one Robert could work with. As the movie's opening credits ran, Robert felt a buzz from tag-along wristwatch. The screen said a message for Freddy. He tapped and text said fast asleep. Nice. Robert let himself relax. The movie was the exact thing Anna would have hated, but Robert enjoyed the brainless entertainment of cars chasing each other and guns blazing. He knew that he would enjoy the movie more if Anna was beside him, making snarky comments about the improbability of the situation and the cheesiness of the acting. He always been tolerant of him being equally snarky when they watched romantic comedies she liked. Even with his ever-present loneliness, he was still one of the most relaxing nights he had in a long time. He knew that Tackle on Freddy to thank for his very easy evening. Tag-along Freddy accompanied Tyler to breakfast table the next morning and then went to the daycare. Tyler didn't even ask to play with Robert's phone in the car. He called Freddy and talked to him instead. When they arrived at the class, Miss Lorraine sat on the floor and examined Tyler's new toy. Who's your friend? She asked. Freddy, Tyler said, sounding proud and delighted. He had a hair bared to Miss Lauren's face, so it seemed to kiss her cheek. Miss Lauren laughed. Freddy's very friendly. I know you usually discourage bringing toys from home, Robert said, but we had bear yesterday and he absolutely refuses to part with it. Miss Lorraine smiled and looked at Tyler, who was cuddling Freddy against his chest. It'd be obvious to anyone that happy the toy made him. Well then, I think we can make an exception in this case. Robert knew the teachers of the daycare cut Tyler some slack because he didn't have a mom. Just a sad but well-meaning dad who often seemed incompetent and overwhelmed. While on one hand he didn't like being looked at with pity, on the other hand he was happy to take all the breaks he could. Every once in a while, as Robert worked in the cubicle, his tag-along Freddy time wristwatch would vibrate. He would tap it and read a text from Freddy. Messy fun with finger paints. Lum young shine. Nap time. He's snoozing away. There was something comforting about those messages, and the way Robert pictured what Tyler was doing in the course of the day made him feel he was less isolated. He was part of something, a family. He and Tyler may have not been a complete family that Robert longed for, but they were still a family. Just like Miss Lorraine explained the idea of family to Tyler's class, there were people who loved each other, and that was count for something. Saturday morning after breakfast, Robert grabbed a second cup of coffee and helped Tyler down with his booster seat. It's a beautiful morning, buddy. Why don't we go outside and play in your sandbox? Yeah, sandbox, Tyler said. He grabbed his Freddy doll in his hand and Daddy's hand in the other. Freddy play too? Okay, Robert said. Freddy can come too, but he can't get in the sandbox. The sand will be bad for his fur. Robert settled on some kind of deal with a helpful inanimate object with a tag-along Freddy would give Robert regular updates on Tyler's safety and well-being. In return, Robert prevented Tyler from submerging Freddy in water, smearing him with spaghetti sauce, coating him in sand, or exposing him to other messy form of peril. It was a mutually beneficial relationship. Outside, Tyler perched up tag-along Freddy on the side of the van box. Robert supposed that was Freddy could watch him play. Robert settled on a chair in the porch and sipped a cup of coffee and watched Tyler play too. Tyler loved his sandbox. It was filled with toy dump trucks and bulldozers and other construction vehicles. Tyler loved taking his plastic shovel, filling his dump truck with sand, moving it around, making a vroom sounds, then dumping out the sand, only to fill it up again and never got old, as far as Robert could tell. From inside the house, Robert heard his phone ringing. He meant to bring it outside and left it on the kitchen counter. Parenting made him so scattered that it seemed like he was always leaving something behind. Hey, buddy, I'm gonna go get the phone, Robert said. You okay to stay in the sandbox? Okay, Daddy, Tyler said, shoveling sand into the bed of the dump truck. I'll be right back, Robert called. Robert ran to the kitchen and picked up the phone. His voicemail icon piped up, and he clicked on it. It was a recorded message from a sketchy-sounding company trying to sell him homeowner's insurance he didn't need. He deleted the message heading outside. The sandbox was empty. The fear gripped Robert's heart. Tyler, he yelled. Tyler! No answer. He ran up sandbox. You could see the indentation of sand where Tyler had been sitting. But no Tyler. Tyler's tag-along Freddy still sat on the edge of the sandbox. Clearly Freddy had not been watching. Robert looked at the open gate. It had been closed before, hadn't it? He saw a white van he didn't recognize driving away. Could Tyler be inside that van? It was the absolute worst thing he imagined. Robert felt a tag-along Freddy time wristwatch vibrate and soon announced a message from Freddy. He tapped on the icon and the message appeared on the screen. Gone. Gone, Robert screamed. Gone? How's that supposed to help me? He kicked the stuffed bear as hard as he could, sending a smile sailing across the road. Tyler, Tyler. He yelled some more. He ran out to the street, yelling. Neighbors came out of their houses, asked what was wrong, but no one seen his son. Because someone had opened the gate, come into the yard, and snatched his son. In a few seconds, it took him to go inside the house and grab his phone. It seemed possible, but yet you saw that kind of thing on the news all the time. Those people who could get it thought it was possible too. The kind of thing that happened to other people, but not you. until it did. His phone, he forgot he was still holding his phone. Time was wasting. He called the police. They arrived quickly. He gave them that. There were two officers, an old man with salt-paper hair and a young, dark-haired woman. So, at the time when you do notice your son was missing, the young officer said. His demeanor was professional, and Robert could hear the genuine concern in her voice. He read Ramirez. Maybe 20 minutes ago, Robert said. He was so panicked he could get his breath. He was in the sandbox. I ran into the house to get my phone, and when I came back, he was gone. And there's no chance that he would have come into the house while you're getting your phone and hiding somewhere. Some kids get a kick out of hiding. The older officer, whose badge read Cook, said, "You'd be amazed how many kids I found hiding under beds or in closets, giggling crazy how bad they scared their mom or dad." "No, I would have heard him. He would come back in the house," Robert said. "Also, the front gate was open when I came back, and I'm pretty sure it was closed before, and I saw a white van from the street. I didn't know it belonged to anybody in the neighborhood. Maybe he was abducted by someone in that van." Officer Ramirez was taking notes fiercely. "Did you get the van's license plate number?" "No, it drove way too fast. I'm sorry." In fact, Robert hadn't even thought about Jenny Van's license plate number. You would think I'd never seen a cop show or TV, he thought. I'm incompetent. I'm too incompetent to be a parent. Now Tyler's paying the price. "That's okay," Officer Ramirez said. "I know it's upsetting. I need to know through all of these questions. You have the information we need to find your son. Now, did his son's mother live with you?" "No, she died of childbirth having Tyler. If she weren't dead," Robert thought, "Tyler probably would be missing, because would at least have one competent parent." "I'm sorry to hear that," Officer Ramirez said. "Could you give us a physical description of your son?" "He's 2 years old," Robert said. "Hazel eyes, dark hair, and he's about 3 feet tall. I think he weighed 28 pounds at the last doctor's visit." Conjuring up a vivid picture of Tyler made his disappearance all the more painful. 3 feet tall and 28 pounds. He was so tiny, so helpless. Here, I can send you a picture of him." He fumbled his phone. "Can you tell us about the clothing Tyler was wearing at the time of his disappearance?" Officer Ramirez continued. "What clothes did Robert picked up for Tyler this morning?" He didn't pay much attention because he wasn't anticipating being quizzed on them. "Play clothes, blue shorts. I think it was a t-shirt with Freddie Fazbear on it." Freddie Fazbear's name made him think painful of the message on the wristwatch. Gone. He had to pull himself together for Tyler's sake. "Red sneakers," he said. "And still in diapers, if that matters." Tears sprang in his eyes. Tyler was still just a baby. "Thank you," Officer Ramirez said. "So, what are you going to do to find him?" Robert asked. Officer Cook, who had seemed content to let his partner ask more of the questions, finally chimed in. "Sir, when a child is this young is missing, be sure that not someone we take lightly. We'll scour the entire area. We'll see if we can get any info about the van. We'll be in touch. Right now, home is the best place for you to be, and your phone close by." "Are you going to put one of those alerts for missing children?" Robert asked. He would remember the alerts were called, but he got them on his phone, and for some frequency, and always found them upsetting. He couldn't help but imagining the frightening children and the frantic parents, and how he was one of the parents. "An Amber Alert," an old officer said. "We will if we don't find him quickly, and we feel like he's in immediate danger." "Of course he's in danger," Robert shouted. "He's 2 years old and either run off by himself or has been abducted by a maniac. How would he not be in danger?" "We understand you're upset," Officer Ramirez said, patting his arm. "His very parents' worst nightmare, and we're going to do everything in our power to get Tyler back to you as quickly as possible, safe and sound." It was 5 p.m. where he was still no leads. The police assured him they were asking around about a suspicious white van and hadn't received any useful information yet. Robert asked the coach, staring ahead in a daze. He had never felt so useless, so worthless. He only had one job that mattered, and was keep his son safe, and he failed it miserably. Everyone he loved died or disappeared. He wouldn't protect anyone. Now he was all alone. He probably served him right. Robert's wristwatch vibrated. He felt a sudden soft flutter of hope. Maybe the watch had some information about Tyler's whereabouts. He typed the message from Freddie. It texted me, "Why don't you go to the cliffs?" Robert shivered at the thought of the temperature in the room, and he dropped to 40 degrees. Jumper's Cliff. His own thoughts had been headed in direction about Anna. Without Tyler, without reason, he had to keep on living. Apparently, he was so worthless even a child's toy thought he was a waste of good organs. Stop, Robert thought. Tyler had been missing for a full 8 hours. If he was still alive, Robert had to be there with him. He wasn't much, but he was still all Tyler had. He would try to do better, try not to fail his son next time. He looked over the mantel where he set the tackle on Freddie, where he brought it back into the house. He knew it was ridiculous, but he felt like the bear was mocking him, judging him. Robert wasn't a superstitious person, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the toy was somehow bad luck. He grabbed it, holding it between his thumb and forefinger. It was a dead rat. He carried it outside, lifted the lid garbage can, and dumped it inside. Back in the house, Robert sat down on the couch. Normally at this time, he'd be thinking about what Tyler would have for supper. Usually on Saturdays, he made something simple. Hot dogs or grilled cheese sandwiches. Sometimes he'd order a pizza, and then they come in the movies that Tyler loved. The kind of cartoon animal was being heroic. Robert wished he could be more heroic. His phone rang. He answered before time to ring. "Mr. Stanton? Is this Detective Ramirez? Did you find him?" Robert's heart was pounding in his chest. "Not yet, sir, but we have officers all over the city. We also have the use of a dog and a tremendous track record when it comes to locating missing persons. I know this seems like a regular request, but do you have some piece of clothing that belongs to your son we can use the dog to sniff? An unwashed shirt that was a laundry hamper, maybe?" "I'm sure I do, yes." Robert always been behind on laundry. He counted on one of many failings, but in this case, maybe it was actually helpful. "Well, if it's okay with you, I may come by and get it." "Of course," Robert said, trying to keep his voice from breaking. "Anything that might help you find him." Once he was off the phone, Robert went to Tyler's room. He looked for Tyler's little toddler bed and thought about all the nights he'd peeked in a room and seen Tyler there, sleeping in that deep, peaceful way only a small children could sleep. How would he give anything to see Tyler lying there right now? Anything. He reached into the laundry hamper and pulled out a light blue striped shirt Tyler had worn just the day before. When he held it up, it seemed impossibly small, like a doll's clothes, and his shirt was nose inhaled. Later on dirt, sweet apple juice, and sweet hay-like aroma. He thought of a little boy smell. His little boy smell. Robert sat down on Tyler's bed and put his face in his hands and sobbed. By the time Detective Ramirez arrived to pick up the shirt, Robert had calmed down a little, but his eyes were still red and swollen. I know it's hard, Detective Ramirez said. Probably the hardest thing you've ever been through, but I promise you that we'll do all we can to find your little boy. Try to get some rest, okay? After the officer left, Robert sank back into the living room couch. It's probably the hardest thing he ever had been through, but losing Anna had been terribly hard too. He knew everybody had come bad with something to him. He certainly felt like he had more than a fair share of suffering. His phone vibrated and clicked on the message icon, which said, "Why don't you go to the cliffs?" Robert's anger flashed at white hot. Maybe it wasn't so crazy to think the bear was judging him after all. It was urging him to commit suicide. Well, he wasn't going to have it. He stomped outside in a garbage can where he dumped the thing. He brought the bear back in the house. Somehow it made him less nervous to have the thing where he could see it. He hoped it wasn't losing his mind. He was under thinkable amounts of stress, of course, and he needed to keep it together for Tyler. Rest, Detective Ramirez told him, for some rest. Instead of going back to the couch, Robert walked down the hallway in his bedroom, carrying the bear. He sat the bear down on the bed, looking at it. He felt much of a surge of hate in the toy, and his stomach roiled. He ran to the bathroom and stretched in the toilet. Though not much came up. He hadn't eaten since breakfast. Breakfast seemed like years ago. Everything had still been normal at breakfast. Everything had been normal until he brought Tackle and Freddy into the house. Back in the bedroom, Robert glared at a offending bear. He drew back his fist and punched it in the face again and again. He quickly became apparent that his punches were all that effective. The bear's face would cave in and Robert's fist made contact with it, but then it sprung back into place. Robert wasn't doing any harm. Then one thing he wanted, other than getting Tyler back home safely, was to harm the bear. Robert tagged along Freddy by its ear and carried it downstairs. He went to the kitchen and retrieved the box of matches. He kept it on a high shelf in the cabinet out of Tyler's reach. He carried Freddy outside the trash can and threw him back in. He struck the match and held it to the bear, waiting for it to catch fire. The bear's foot smoldered a little but refused to burst into flames. He was probably tested with some chemical, Robert thought, and make it flame retardant. A safety feature. Well, we have to put a stop to that. He grabbed the bottle of lighter fluid and kept near the grill. Robert doused the bear with lighter fluid, and then he struck another match and threw it in the garbage can. Tackle on Freddy went up a satisfying whoosh of flames. Robert watched it burn for a few minutes, then used a garden hose to extinguish the fire. He didn't want to accidentally burn the whole house down. Once the fire died out, he felt a small amount of relief. He knew it didn't make any logical sense, but he still felt that destroying the bear would somehow help find Tyler. At the very least, there wouldn't be some voice to keep telling Robert to kill himself. After he could rest, he let off Ramirez had ordered him to. He made sure the last of the fire was extinguished. He went back in his bedroom, undressed, and crawled under the covers. He was pretty sure there was no way he was going to sleep, but it was still relief to lie down. He was so exhausted, every bone and muscle in his body was heavy with lead. He didn't lose consciousness, but lay there in a short stupor, his eyes open, not really seeing. The vibration of Tackle on Freddy time wristwatch startled Robert. But that was impossible. He had destroyed the bear. He couldn't read the messages anymore. Maybe he really was asleep and this was a dream. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all this had been a really bad dream? Robert slapped down his face and felt it sting. He wasn't dreaming. He lifted his arm and looked at his watch. A message from Freddy was flashing. He was shaking it. He tapped the icon. Why don't you go to the cliffs? No, Robert yelled, clapping his hand over his ears. No, this is impossible. The bear is practically just ashes now. You can still be telling me to kill myself. You can't be telling me anything. Robert ran outside and lifted the lid of garbage can. The Fred doll was charred. It was still grinning. He reached inside the can and pulled it out. The bear stank of smoke and lighter fluid, and his sink and black in some places was still intact. Robert knew he had spent too much time with that adult company since Anna died, and sometimes he felt so sad and lonely he wondered if he would see a therapist. But now it seemed he had moved beyond the need for just talking to a caring professional. The trauma of losing Tyler after losing Anna had caused him to lose something else. His mind. We're all a little bit crazy in our own way. I'm a little bit crazy because I read all day. Speaking of reading, today we read pages 21 to 40, chapters 0 to 0, but we are really close to finishing the story of the cliffs. Next time we will be reading pages 41 to 54. Very short episode, but it will be the end of the cliffs. Yeah. It really, twisted there, didn't it? But I ain't gonna give you any more twists or turns or anything like that, because as normal, it's time for the reading corner of the day. So, today we are reading about the Clumber Spaniel. Spaniel being spelled properly this time. Is Clumber spelled properly? Clumber. Clumber. Yep, it's spelled properly. It just doesn't have the proper capitalization. Look at that dog. He's so silly. He's a big old hound dog. But then again, he's apparently a spaniel. I'd personally call him a sheep, but of course, before we can ever make fun of something, we need to know its history. So, the history of the Clumber Spaniel is that it's the stockiest of the spaniels. The Clumber is also one of the oldest, dating to the late 1700s, although the exact derivation of the breed is unknown. It is likely that the old heavy-headed Alpine Spaniel and the low-bodied Basset Hound played prominent roles in its development. The breed did not get the name all around the time of the French Revolution, when it was believed that the Duc de Noailles of France moved the spaniel kennels to the Duke of Newcastle's English estate, Clumber Park. Clumber, slow-moving but a spaniels, appealed to the English nobility, who appreciated the spaniel's slow-moving but essentially keen-nosed hunter. It was also an adept retriever. The breed was not readily available for commoners because of the nobility discouraged its popularity except among higher society. As befitting of the high status, Clumbers were among the earliest breeds to be shown. They came to America in the late 1800s. Their popularity has remained strongest in the field. Although Clumbers have attained high show honors, they remain greatly unknown to the public despite their many attributes. So I believe this dog is mistaken for other dogs because I'm mentally been telling myself, oh yeah, I've seen this breed of dog. But considering the book itself has said, and quote, this dog has been mistaken for other animals, I could be actually incorrect. So now you want one of these unknown dogs, but you need to know the temperament. So the temperament of the Clumber Spaniel is that it's among the most low-keyed and easygoing of the sporting breeds. The Clumber Spaniel is nonetheless a hunter of heart, ever ready for the day of the field. At home, it tends to be quiet and may even need to be goaded into exercise. It is one of the few sporting breeds suitable for city life. Although it will relish walks and outgoings, the Clumber makes a good pet, especially devoted to one person. So it's a good dog. He's a very good dog. But, of course, I could just be lying. So what's the upkeep, Stonesy? You always read about the upkeep. Well, the upkeep's very short on this dog because the upkeep of the Clumber Spaniel, as you can see, very fluffy, is that the Clumber enjoys the daily outing. But its exercise requires be met with a long walk on a leash or a leisurely hike in the field. The coat needs brushing 2 to 3 times weekly, although in dirty areas it may need more frequent bathing in order to keep its coat a gleaming white. Clumbers tend to drool and at times snore. Oh, this doggy snores. He's a loud doggy. Loud doggy with a lot of hair. But now it's time for any children to be listening to cover your ears. Any teenagers or adults, keep those ears open. This is important. AKA the worst time I have in this book. So for the health of the Clumber Spaniel, the major concerns is invertebral disc disease. Now, basically, that means their legs and hips are very gentle. It's a major concern because that means they can't run or walk and it's hard for them to do anything else. They're mostly fur, so when they're dragging their feet all the time, if they were to, that means their hair would get dirty and they get a lot of diseases. The minor concerns you were looking at is entropin, ectropin, entropin, odious externa. So I believe that has to do with otitious is eye. So eye problems, entropin and entropine, which are two different words, are more like parts of the arms or arms of the dog, the legs. Your suggested tests are the hip, eye, and elbow, and they're occasionally seen having seizures, which is not okay for the doggy, of course. So keep an eye on that. And their lifespan is 10 to 12 years, which is pretty average for a spaniel. Finally, before we get to the tier list, we have the form and function. Now, I don't have a family, Stonesy, so what can these dogs do? What do they look like? What do I have to look out for? What makes my dog perfect and healthy in its own way? Well, the form and function of the Clumber Spaniel is that the Clumber Spaniel is long, low dog, rectangular shape with a massive bone. This built in combination with a deep chest, heavy brow, and a powerful hindquarters enables a dog to move through thick underbrush when hunting. The coat is straight, flat, soft, and dense, imparting resistance to weather. The white color helps the hunter locate the dog. The Clumber tends to hunt close and it moves easily, tending to roll slightly because of its wide body and short legs. The expression is soft. So this doggy could trip on itself and fall and roll. That's really cute, but also really sad. So finally, we're at the at a glance. 5 means it's the best or could be the worst, depending on the situation. 4 means it's above average, or you know how it is. 3 means it's average, you know, it's like the rest. 2 means it's below average, and 1 means it is the worst, or it can be the worst, or it could be the best, depending. For example, the energy level and exercise requirements are at a 2. So for energy level being at a 2, that's below average. That's not really good. But their exercise requirements is a 2, which is good because they don't need a lot of exercise. Their playfulness is at a 3, so average is as average as any other dog. The affection level is at a 4, so they're more affectionate than others. Their friendliness towards other pets is also a 4. The friendliness towards dogs, friendliness towards strangers, and ease of training are at a 3. So, you know, it's going to be good friends with other dogs, could be good friends with other strangers, and it's average easy as training. Now the watchdog ability, aka how far they can see and tell you, it's out of 2. Not the best, but could be worse. Speaking of worse, their protection ability is out of 1, so these dogs aren't going to be very good for protecting. I think these are more for if you live in a safe area and you want a dog. Grooming requirements and cold tolerance at a 3, which is normal, and their heat tolerance is at a 2, which is strange. I think this is the first dog we've had that actually has a lower tolerance, which makes sense. He's mostly fur. Oh my goodness, look how fabulous you are. I have a close look at the next spaniel we're going to be reading about. But before I get to that, the final 2 things, the weight that you'd want your Clumber Spaniel to be at a healthy weight is 70 to 85 pounds, and for a female, 55 to 70 pounds. The height for a male should be 90 to 20 inches, and a female, 17 to 19 inches. Now back to that spaniel. The next spaniel that we'll be looking at is very beautiful, very fantastic, and it is something you'll learn about in the next episode. So, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for the finale of Five Nights at Freddy's. The Cliff, right? We're reading The Cliff. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. Yeah, The Cliffs. So, yeah. Super fantastic, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!